So, I have a little question to ask you guys. Does the West have a problem with racism towards white people?
There's been something going on for a while now that we're being told not to notice. More to the point, that we're asking white people not only to ignore, but to accept. The rising tide of racial hatred against white people.
Hey guys, and welcome to Make Reaction Reviews, where we react and review to things on the internet. And I'm back. I know it's been a while since I've made a current sort of face-to-face video with you guys. I've been kind of recycling old videos from my Speak Freely channel and transferring them over to my Mika Reacts and Reviews channel and doing some voiceover videos. And I want to thank you guys for being patient with me until I got my ish together. So I'm back. I still have a lot of voiceover videos that I will be uploading because I've already done them and I'm going to edit them, but I'm going to start doing more current videos as we move forward. And speaking of recordings, I do have a new camera, a Lumix, and I have a little microphone, so hopefully I've come back with the quality being upped a tad bit. I'm still learning to work with the camera, and I'm still learning to work with my new space. I'm actually standing. I usually sit, so this is gonna take some time getting used to until I figure out more how I want my setup to be. So thank you again, guys, for being patient with me. So I presented a question early on in this video. Do we have a problem in the West with being racist, prejudiced, biased, or literally just becoming a trend to shit on an entire group of people simply due to the color of their skin and the privilege they were born with, which they can't help? So actually making it fashionable and trendy and okay and societally acceptable to shit on people just because they were born. I tend to agree that that is an issue, but we're going to react to an interesting video today from another fellow YouTuber who presented his questions with receipts. So we're going to listen to what he has to say about the problem he feels there is with racism towards white people, and then he's gonna play a barrage of TikTok videos of people doing just that, and it's cringe AF. And if you want to watch the entire video, let me know and I'll give you the link to his channel. I'll put the name of his channel in the title of this video, because his video is about 20 minutes long, and that's just too long for me. And if you want to continue torturing yourself and of course hear more of his commentary, just let me know and I'll give you the link. So that's enough yammering. Let's get into the reaction.
In the past decade, there has been a noticeable cultural shift in what constitutes acceptable speech as it relates to white people. Back when I was a kid, in the early 2000s, the mainstream American culture preached about respecting each other's differences and not seeing color. Nowadays, we say that not seeing color is racism, that you must see color.
That whole thing about not seeing color is actually a form of racism, and to be anti-racist, which is just another form of racism, is to actually see color, and not only just see color, to make the color of someone's skin or someone's race your primary label to be able to judge them by when it comes to their power or their oppression. And that is a very like neo-Marxist sort of communist socialist talking point that they have been radically teaching in universities, and now it is sort of made his way on social media sites like TikTok. So that is kind of what he's talking about. And of course, when people say they don't see color, they're not actually saying that they're colorblind, or they're just going to ignore the fact that you're a different race or you come from a different cultural background. What it's saying is that they're not going to judge you on your race or the fact that you come from a different cultural background, that they're going to treat you like they treat anyone else, like, you know, the old, who was that person, that civil rights leader? Oh yeah, Martin Luther King. His whole statement: judge those based on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. But let's continue.
Virtually no limit to what racial minorities can and do say about white people. I believe this is the natural outgrowth of a perverse ideology that teaches us that every societal ill is the fault of white people, and that whatever prejudice acts we may inflict upon them does not constitute discrimination because we don't have the power to discriminate.
You know, it really depends on the individual, whether how much power or privilege you have over a person or versus a person. When it comes to the whole like, well, there's more white people in CEO positions or political positions or power positions, that is still a very tiny minority. That is the 1% of the 1%, and most white people are not a part of that, and most white people are struggling and just trying to make it through life like everybody else. Every individual, whether you're black, white, Chinese, girl, boy, you have some sort of privilege and some sort of oppression. It's not this whole group thing. But again, that's the sort of communist neo-Marxist way of doing things, where they just group everybody together and they base you off your group. So even though as a white individual you don't have a lot of power or maybe even privilege, but your group is powerful, so we're just gonna lump you in with that, and we don't really give a flying fuck about your individual lived experience or past experience or traumas or anything like that. We're just gonna lump you in. And the same thing with black people. It doesn't matter if you come from a really wealthy family and you're really smart and you're really talented and if you've kind of breezed through life, it doesn't matter. You belong to the oppressive class, so we're going to judge you on your oppressive class and not your individual lived experience. But let's continue.
And alarmingly, this is particularly pronounced in the younger generation. But is it true? Do we not have the power to discriminate? Well, let's see. First, let's take a look at the racial hatred at the interpersonal level. In today's society, it has become somewhat fashionable to think things and say things about and to white people that would not be acceptable if it was said about any other race. And we're being taught that this double standard is not wrong, that it is rather a form of empowerment.
So the whole calling out white people as a form of empowerment, I also think identifying yourself as oppressed has somehow perversely become a form of empowerment. I don't know how. Seeing yourself as a victim, living in victim culture or victim mentality, I don't really see how that is a form of empowerment. And matter of fact, it's definitely not a form of empowerment, because you'll always use that as an excuse of why you're not approving or moving up in the world or in getting the things you want out of life. Instead of looking at your own individual abilities to get the things you want, you're always going to blame someone else, inherently giving the power away to someone else that you think has more power than you, keeping yourself in that oppressive state, right? But it is kind of seen like that. That's why you see a lot of white Beckys scrambling, trying to find oppressive labels, because it's seen as a form of empowerment and even almost a form of supremacy. I'm oppressed, I'm black, disabled, and queer, so I get to speak first. My lived experience is more important, and you should just believe whatever I say. That is a form of supremacy, not a form of oppression. But again, they've somehow perverted this idea that if you are oppressed, you're also empowered. It's a little bit weird. Why don't you go preach that to the Uyghur Muslims? Maybe that'll help them get out of their enslavement. I don't know. Anyway, let's continue.
They'll attribute negative experiences that they've had with white people to their whiteness. You had an argument in line at the grocery store with a white person? They were acting entitled because they were white. A white driver cut you off when you were driving? They need to check their white privilege. Your actions, your conduct, and your existence, in other words, boil down to your whiteness. And ashamedly, at one point in time, this was how I used to think as well.
Stopping it there, that's true. Everyone kind of does that, though. That's just, kind of a form of prejudice or bias. If men just think women can't drive, then if a woman somehow does something wrong while she's driving in a traffic lane or something like that, they're not going to contribute to the fact that she's just an individual who has bad driving skills, or maybe she's intoxicated, or maybe she's texting. They're just going to contribute it to her biological sex and say it's because she's a woman. So people do that all the time. But yeah, this is definitely something that people do if they been taught their entire lives from birth, or since they got into universities or uploaded onto TikTok, that white people are just inherently evil. It's just in their blood. It's just in their nature. It's written in their DNA. So of course you're going to take any negative social interaction with a white person and just go, it's simply because they're white, not because they're just an individual who might just A, be having a bad day, B, there was a miscommunication, or C, they're just an asshole. But I think as a society as a whole, we do tend not to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't think that's just a black-white thing. I think that's just a person thing, that people tend to always think the worst of a situation and not give the person the benefit of the doubt. Like if somebody was rude to you at a grocery store line, maybe their grandma just died. Maybe they just found out their boyfriend cheated on them. Maybe they just lost their cat, and maybe it has nothing to do with you. It also speaks to the fact that we live in a narcissistic society where we always think everything is about us. But let's continue.
And beyond the people in my circle, I noticed that many people of color have this sort of blasé attitude. An attitude most particularly pronounced when there are no other white people around. Things are being said not just behind closed doors, but out in the open. Not just between close friends, but between complete strangers. So here's the thing. This is something that I've experienced countless times, so I know that there are other people who are experiencing it too. I know it must resonate with at least some of you. So I've compiled some TikTok videos. I want you to take a look at the things that are being said about white people, especially by the younger generation, the kind of statements people wouldn't dare say about people of any other race. Take a look at what is stunningly in vogue in today's society and ask yourselves, where does this lead to years down the line?
Stopping it there. Okay, so before we get to these cringe TikTok videos, he said before that he used to think like this. I never thought like this, by the way, ever. And I grew up in a very, very, very racist family who wasn't just racist towards white people. They were racist towards anybody who did not look like them. But they had a special place in their hell heart for white people, the white race. They just really did not like them. I grew up in the Nation of Islam, by the way, as well, which was a lot of racist rhetoric going on around there. If you grew up in the Nation of Islam and you didn't see that, I guess that was your lived experience. But in my mosque, where Minister Farrakhan used to preach, a lot of racist shit was said. I mean, I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole of stuff was said, but let's just say a lot of people didn't even see white people as human. And that wasn't a metaphor. Literally not human. So I grew up in that community. I grew up there, but I still never actually latched onto it. And I think I've said it in other videos of why I never did. So again, I'm not going to keep going on and on about my lived experience. Anyway, I'm going to stop. Let's get into the TikTok cringe.
You have a token white and you're hanging out with your friend group of color. You need to ask permission from everybody in the group to bring your white friend. Like, don't just bring them. With them. I might not be in the mood to deal with white shenanigans that day. That's all I'm saying. And another thing, it feeds into their ego. Like, don't let them think they're a good white person.
Stopping it there. I actually reacted to that first TikTok video and another video that I did. So I'm not gonna go back what I already said, but what I will say is that just replace the words. If a white person said, oh my God, if you bring your black friends, you need to ask every white person if we're comfortable around a black person, because I don't want to deal with what black people do. Like, that person would have been kicked off every social media platform, would have lost their job, would have been kicked out of their colleges, would have been disowned from all their friends. Like, come on. Anyway, let's continue.
Let's just ask, how can they support Black and Indigenous people of color? And sometimes I really don't know what to say, but here's one easy way. Just don't have babies.
Women can single-handedly cause the white genocide that they are so afraid of. With 2.25 billion Asian women and 500 million white men, baby, it'll only take 2 generations. In 2 generations, there will no longer be any blonde-haired...
Is there some things that...
Stopping it there. I gotta back it up a little bit. But, what? Do you think, again, can anybody else go online and be like, we want to have a genocide of any other race? Genocide. Do you know what genocide is? Do you know what a genocide is? Look, and I also get that these people are young and they're trying to like be edgy. Yeah, but I don't know, like in my generation, talking about wanting to genocide a whole race of people wasn't edgy. You would get kicked out of the friend group really quick. But not all of these people are that young. Some of them are in their 20s and they should know better. But anyway, let's continue.
I noticed about white American culture, being grounded is a punishment to them. That's what they call punishment. The least grounded, least balanced, most destructive race considers being grounded.
I'm gonna stop it there. Woo! Okay, I was grounded in my household. I don't know if she thought grounded was a white person's term, but I was grounded in my household, not punished. But it's the same thing. I think that maybe people think punishment automatically means like violent, but it can also just mean you're grounded. You're sent to your room or you're having your iPhone taken away from you, right? And here she goes with the rhetoric of like white people are just like inherently just violent and hateful and just disgusting people. When you just had an Asian person want to do a complete genocide on them. Okay. I don't want to necessarily like bring up like the black on black crime rate and the homicide rate in the black community. I don't necessarily bring up, the high abortion rate in the black community, because that's kind of killing too. You know what I mean? I don't want to bring up the fact that black people seem to be proud that we beat our kids. This is not all black people, by the way. Do not come for me, but we know it's a thing. You see black comedians always joking about how your mama gonna beat the black off of you, right? We joke about it, okay? Or, you know, the drive-bys, which is kind of odd that the mainstream media does not add drive-bys in mass shootings. Because you don't have to kill more than a few people for it to be considered a mass shooting. Just saying. Anyway, let's continue.
A punishment? Yeah. They also say really violent phrases. They say things like, kill two birds with one stone. Why do we have to kill the birds? Why is everything so violent?
I'm assuming she's vegan. You better be vegan. If you are upset about killing the birds, it's just a saying. Everybody use saying, slang. Let's continue. Cringe.
It's almost like one's language and phrases reflects one's nature.
So you know how like in the urban community, let me say urban, let me not say black community, but the urban community that's always attached to blackness, how we call each other bitches and hoes. Oh my god, you such a hoe, slut, bitch. We call each other nigga. That is derived from the word with a hard R. That's not indicative of our nature. Which is not indicative of our nature. What I'm trying to show is that anybody can do this, but it's acceptable to do it to white people. Any other white person can come up here and be like, what about this and what about this? And this makes this whole judgment on an entire black generation or entire black community. And again, one of their comebacks will be, well, they already do that. They do that all the time. They've been doing that for generations, so why can't we do it? You know what I mean? Like two wrongs make a right, the whole thing. It's like, I want to be just as evil as you, but for somehow my evilness is self-righteousness. I don't get it. Not that I'm saying you guys are evil. I'm just saying that that's how they feel. That's the conversation that they will have, is they've been doing it all this time. They've been doing it for generations. So now it's our time. It's revenge, not equality. Revenge. Let's continue.
Clearly, history shows that you all are the people that like to pillage and eradicate, enslave and oppress, attempt to suppress greatness because you all simply don't have it.
Okay, somebody else needs a history lesson. This whole like, oh, it was just white people who raped and pillaged and enslaved. Well, we literally have people of color enslaving other people of color in 2023. It just seems like everybody keeps going quiet on the whole Uyghur thing. I don't know, and the whole like African slave tribe that's literally going on right now. The African slave trade is literally going on right this second. No one seems to bat an eye at that. Anyway, but let's go back. Let's go back in a day where this was all socially acceptable. Africans enslaved Africans long before the African to America or African to Europe or whatever slave trade. Africans enslaved other Africans for generations and generations before the American African slave trade, okay? And before that, almost every other country on this planet has a bloody history of raping, pillaging, taking land, and enslaving other people, especially their own kind. Native Americans, Aborigines, Mayans, all the originals that were here in the land before white people or I came along, were they raping and pillaging, taking land, and enslaving others, right? Okay. See, it's really sad that this is literally the narrative. You have to give it up to the Democrats. You have to give up to the American school system. They're literally brainwashed so fucking deep. The brainwashing has gone so deep that generation 2023 Gen Z is still spouting the same stupid talking points that is literally not factually true. They really believe that before white people ever exist or was made from the lab, that I was taught that white people are either demons or made from a lab. Before they came to fruition, that everyone else was literally just running through the fields naked, talking to the wind, hugging trees, and riding on horses bareback. No. They were raping and pillaging and taking each other's lands. Maybe in between, they were, singing in the wind and hugging trees and riding bareback on the horses. But in between all of that Pocahontas BS, they were still raping and pillaging and enslaving each other. And it's still going on today. So no, this is not a uniquely white thing. This is a uniquely human thing. And everyone has been capable of it, okay? I don't know. This is the other thing. This is a little bit of a rant. This is the other thing. I don't know why people of color are so hell-bent on wanting them to be the only ones that has been enslaved. Like, they actually get mad if you bring up any other race that has been enslaved. Like, it's like they like wear it as a badge of honor or something. Like, we need this slave identity. Don't take it away from us. You're not allowed to appropriate it. Like, wouldn't you be kind of happy and relieved to know, like, oh, it wasn't just us. Okay, so it's not like a black thing. Okay, it's just a like horrible, monstrous human history thing that the planet has and is still struggling in some parts of the world today. So you would think they would be happy about that. You know why? You know why they're not happy about it? Because their oppression gives them power. Their oppression gives them supremacy. Their oppression gives them privilege. So they don't want to share that with anybody else, especially if they already think you have privilege or power. So that is kind of what my thinking is, because I've never seen so many black people get mad when you bring up other races who've been enslaved. You would think, be like, oh damn, okay, cool. It wasn't just us. Okay, that's cool. That's good. That's cool. I mean, it's not cool that people were enslaved, but it's cool to know that that's not inherently has something to do with who I am or what my lineage is or my blackness. It just has something to do with when people had power over anybody, no matter what race they were or culture they came from, they were going to enslave you. It wasn't a black thing. American school system made it a black thing. And as slavery ended and there was Jim Crow and segregation, then they made it a black thing. But slavery, the African slave trade, was a convenience thing. They came up with the technology of ships, and Africans who already was enslaving a bunch of fucking Africans was like, hey, we got them. Give us some money. That's what happened. It wasn't like the Europeans sailed the 7 seas looking for any other people to enslave, and they were like, we can't. Your skin isn't dark enough. We need to go to Africa because we must only enslave dark-skinned people. That's not what happened. Anyway, rant over. Back to the video.
Here go y'all cum goblins who don't even live in the fucking city. Which, by the way, the Q-tip people are the last ones to ever talk about somebody stealing anything. Y'all wouldn't be in this country had it not been for y'all stealing it. So y'all are more focused on people looting and trying to get necessities and things that they need. And yes, a TV is a fucking necessity thing.
A TV is not a necessity. And this is why most Westerners are spoiled, entitled, and ignorant, meaning uneducated. A TV is not a necessity. And why I say that is because a lot of Westerners are very spoiled because they don't realize that electricity is not a necessity. That's not a human right. Clean water, having a roof over your head, or a fridge packed with food, having a bed to sleep on, having a loved one to hug you, having a hospital that will bandage your wounds. That's not a human right. That is a privilege. And I really hope that karma doesn't bite you in the ass and God decides to take all the blessings away from you and all the privileges you do have that you tend to just spit on and think that you should just have it simply because you exist. A TV is not a necessity. And once again, white people were not the only ones that stole land. Then before they came, the Native Americans, the people, the originals or whatever, were also stealing land from each other, was also killing and going to war with each other, was also raping and pillaging with each other. So what about that? I don't know. I guess it's only bad when you're white and you do it. And the fact that people are like so upset that you're like ruining their neighborhood and ruining their business and ruining their economic chances to have a job because those businesses was shut down and move out of those neighborhoods, and essentially turning them to ghetto ghost towns. Yeah, they're upset about it. They're upset about it. No one stole shit from you, but then you go around and steal shit from them when it had nothing to do about the shit that was stolen hundreds of fucking years ago. Move on. Heal. Forgive. Let's continue.
You feel like you're better than because people are out here stealing, and you would never. First of all, if you are a Mayo monster, that is how your ancestors got everything, from stealing. People are...
Again, ancestors, not the particular individuals. If you as an individual go into someone else's business and steal from them, hurting their livelihood, you as an individual did that. Not your ancestors, you. So you're blaming their ancestors, but not for their particular individual personal actions. Make that make sense. Let's continue.
Both white women. We are inherently a danger in spaces for Black, Indigenous, and other people of color simply by existing.
Another genocidal talking point. You gotta like those. White people who just stop existing. You know, Canada, they have that euthanization program. Wink, wink. It is acceptable to tell a whole community of people to go off themselves if you are white. Let's continue.
If BIPOC stand in the street and scream at the top of their lungs, I hate all white people, I want all white people to go die, die white devil, you cracker bitch, that's still not racism.
You just proved my point. I literally just said that. Thank you, white woman, for white explaining that to me. I literally just said that. It's literally acceptable. It is literally acceptable. It is literally acceptable to say, I desire these entire community of people just because you exist and just because you were born. You had nothing to do with the way you were born. You could not control how you were born. But because you were born, you should now no longer exist. Like, this isn't even racism. This is like inhumane. Like, this is like a part of you have no humanity. A part of you have like no ability to have sympathy, empathy, or humanity. Because even if this is just a grift, even if they're like, look, I just want to get likes, I just want to get yes queens on their TikToks. Like, I can never say this. Like, there is nothing in my heart and my soul that would ever even allow me to say this. Like, there's something wrong with you. You need Jesus. Continue.
I'll say it. I hate being white. Which means I'm one of the good ones.
Okay, I think that last one was a troll. I definitely think that was a troll. Or maybe not. I don't know anymore. That was it, guys. That wasn't even the entire video. Like, I think it's like 14 more minutes long or something like that. It's a pretty long video. So if you want the link, just ask me for it and I'll give it to you, or I'll put the link or the name of his channel in the title of this video. This video is already going to be long enough. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think anything that was said in those TikTok videos was acceptable? Do you think that this is like being blown on a proportion, and you feel like, look, these are anecdotal, this is just online, these are just a bunch of fucking young people trying to be edgy or whatever? Again, even though if I was trying to be edgy, I still wouldn't say anything like that. Like, I just couldn't. Like, my soul and my heart couldn't do that. But maybe you think that everyone's blowing this out of proportion. Let me know in the comment section below. And do you think there is such thing as racism towards white people? Do you believe in the whole, well, you can't be racist because you don't have power? Or do you think that the Webster, or at least the old Webster dictionary definition of racism still stands true, that racism is, you know, generally speaking, just prejudice against someone or a group of people, I can't talk, based on simply the color of their skin, or even their cultural background. I personally feel really bad for a lot of these people because, again, even if you're just doing this for a grift, you're still saying it, and words have power. And that's still you. That's still going to stick to you. That hate, that anger, that resentment, that maybe even jealousy, that rage, that's going to stick to you. The words you speak make you. The energy you put out makes you. And the energy you put out, you get back. A bunch of angry, hateful, resentful, rageful people. And that attitude isn't going to just stay there. It's not going to just stay complacent. That bad attitude, that anger and all that just bleh, is going to spill out into their regular lives, into their relationships, into their friendships, into their communities, into the people that is around them. And anger, resentment, hate, rage, and even jealousy are some of the most toxic emotions that you can live with, and it even affects your physical health, and it definitely affects your mental, psychological, and spiritual health. So I definitely feel like, don't be mad at these people, be disgusted by them, but honestly, pray for them. Just pray for them, because They need a fucking hug. Anyway, guys, tell me what you think of this whole thing in a comment section down below. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell to get notifications when I do upload. All of that really does help with the algorithm, guys. And if you'd like to support the channel even further, you can donate. My PayPal me link is in the description box below and also in the comment section. Of course, it helps, but you don't have to. You can just like, comment, and subscribe. Another great way to support this channel is either join my brand new membership program, different levels, different tiers, different perks, or you can visit my brand new merch shop. Links down below and links to all of the eternal platforms I'm on, my socials, including my minds.com, my rumbles, my Twitter, my Discord, my Odyssey account, and all the other links to all the other YouTube channels I have is in the description box below in the community tab or in the about section of this channel. And if you like, you can super thanks. I also have a second travel vlog channel. I travel as a lifestyle. I live abroad. If you'd like to know where I am in the world, you can go description box below. Also in the comment section, hit the link. Go subscribe to my travel vlog channel and or follow me on my travel Instagram. My stories is usually what's most up to date. And you guys have an amazing day.